And welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen, to a quick little video. Today we're going to be talking about Legend of Terrestria, which is the game we are developing. People have been asking, and a lot of new subscribers have been asking, what, you guys are making a game? You're doing video game development stuff? Like, what? So yeah, I figured we'd make this quick little video talking about what is Legend of Terrestria, how you can find out more about it, and a little bit about the game, as we have publicly known. So if you didn't know, and if you weren't aware, every donation this channel receives goes directly into funding this game. Funding the art assets, funding the music, funding everything, really. And that's kind of the goal of this channel. In fact, that's the original reason for me doing YouTube, was to help promote the game and help grow, uh, how would you phrase that? My sphere of influence? No, that's not really it. Basically make connections and just meet people that can help, help out with the game. And it's actually been pretty successful. It's gone very well. Things are going very well, and very well this month thanks to all the donations we've received. So thank you again. Special shout out for that. So back to the game. So Legend of Terrestria, sorry, this is going to be a little annoying because it's looping in the background, but is a turn-based tactical role-playing video game. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's sort of like, what it means by turn-based is you just take turns between different like factions when your characters are on the board, and that's how combat plays out. The role-playing game element, it comes into just the story, the characters, the narration, the decisions that you can make, because in Legend of Terrestria you take on the role as a couple of characters in this world. These are predetermined characters. These aren't just like sandbox characters that you just custom make, because I wanted this very much to be a story. And so when the character takes, or the player takes on the role, they're playing as like Rhea or Aya, these characters of this great Astrian Empire, and they are in the world of Terrestria, and they are making decisions and influencing these characters' morals and ethics, and how they behave and what they do, and their actions in the world of Terrestria. So the art I'm also showing is, by the way, really old. This one in particular, because this is the old tile set, the earlier versions of it. And this animation that you guys are looking right here is basically us trying to tackle combat animations and how they play out. Because on the board, each character takes up a tile. And there's little tiles within those tiles that we're experimenting with to allow for more maneuverability and for monsters and horses and mounted cavalry and other larger beasts and Astosian giants to be able to move around the map. And so that's the idea with that. So we're experimenting with that. And the reason why the combat animation plays out like this in a little screen is to cut down on animation costs, because this game has a massive budget, the money that we've dumped into the art production. So it's incredible. And I do forgive, or I ask that you forgive me for the stream overlay that I have on. I just realized that is actually on. I'm wondering if I can disable that somehow. Hold on. How remarkably unprofessional me. I've been in such a good mood, and now I just absolutely botched what I was trying to do. I've now made myself mad. Oh my goodness. All right. All right. Sorry about that. I apologize. I didn't even notice it was on until just now. I didn't even look over. I just sort of assumed everything was behaving normally. My apologies. All right. So, yeah, there. Sorry about that. Now it's much larger. You won't see the stream overlay. How embarrassing. But yeah, so that's how we're tackling that. So there you can see just different combat animations play out. This is just another way we were just attempting different experimentation, and things like that. And here's just combat animations as a whole. Forgive the white backdrop. It's just part of how it opens up in uh, the Discord app, so to speak. But yeah, as you can see, we're trying to go for like super high-end animations. Like the art budget is insane. Our sprite work is absolutely gorgeous. It's done by Cashew. Sala does the character concepts, and Indio's a supporting artist who's also really talented, and so is Carlos. Sala does all the characters though. He does a really good job. Carlos has done a fantastic job too. Here's a taken out animation, so to speak, or a knockout, or a kill, if you will. Now, we are experimenting with other types of animations that I can't discuss here because I do not want to get people any sort of misconception that they think that that's going to be something we're approaching, but we're trying to experiment with more high-end and more ways to make the battles look cool. Okay, you know what, fine. I'll tell you guys, but this is experimentational, okay? So, what I'm about to tell you is experimentation, meaning we haven't approved it, we are in the process of testing it. Now, you're probably already aware that we are trying to do blood effects and persistent battlefield scarring, which means like scarred, scorch marks, blood splatters, dead corpses. They are persistent on the combat map so that they stick around. That's one thing we want to experiment with. The other thing that we're wanting to experiment with has to do back with this animation here. The reason for this is to cut down on animations. So let's say the Rhea right here was standing above the Rhea right there. If she tried to attack upwards and the animation didn't take place in this, it would look really dumb. Like it would look super stupid. And it wouldn't look as cool. So by doing this, we remove the idea, because it's on a grid, that you have to worry about up, down, left, right diagonals, and you only have to worry about left to right animations. Meaning that cuts down on animation by like 7 times. And on top of that, what we can do is we can now explore different ways to make the animations look cooler. One such way is adding blood effects, other special effects, damage effects, but also the idea of experimenting with unique kill animations. Now, that's something we are in the process of looking into and investigating. That might be more expensive than it's worth, but it's something I think that's worth approaching. Unique, as in 3D games they're called sync kills, but in this it would just be a kill animation, sort of like the old school Fallout games, if you will, where weapons tore off certain sections and they died uniquely based on how they were killed. Here we have a Nefir experiment and idle, just an idea for the animations. As you can see, they're high quality. Now, this is not the finished version because it's all mostly placeholders, and the character is staring perpetually with his eyes open, drawing like raisins. But as you can see, we have a lot of work to do. Here's Sandro's work. He's our environmental artist as well as our map designer. Uh, he is working on animations. He was helping with speed animations, and we were just looking to HEMA because we're trying to make the combat animations look somewhat historically accurate, but we also want the animations to be fun. So it's a balance. Legends of Terrestria is going to use a mixture of HEMA and a mixture of cool. Like, don't expect to see characters doing backflips and twirls because that's something that I'm personally not a big fan of, so we're going to be avoiding that because I am by the way, the director of the game. Um, and here you can see this is the newer tile set, which it's so fucking good. It's absolutely gorgeous. I absolutely love it. See, the thing is, when Cash did the old tile set, I was like, damn, that's good. And like this one is even better. I don't know how, but him and everyone else on the team, the art team specifically, the art department, never cease to amaze me with how amazing their work is. Here we have Rhea standing next to. No, that's not that character. Oh my goodness. I got him mixed up with another character. Now I just absolutely slipped his name. It's been a long time since I've been working on characters because I'm working on the Legend of Krak spin off series, which is a promotional material for this game. Oh my goodness. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. Captain Tiano of the Palatina Guard. How did I forget your name? Captain Tiano. Oh my god, how embarrassing. How embarrassing. Today is nothing but embarrassment. Here we have an example of infrastructure or interior buildings and stuff like that. The dynamic lighting system is in the game, or not, it's not in the current build, but it's really good. I actually probably should pull that up. I will go to our Reddit page to get that actually right away because that is amazing. So, Cashew is also a programmer, and he has programmed us an amazing dynamic lighting system. Behold this. This is, I believe, is an older version of it. I do love how it gets all. Thank you, resolution, quality. Reddit, you're absolutely terrible. Can't you just stay on 720p? But yeah, so the dynamic lighting for the dynamic day and night cycles within a pixel game, this is remarkable. Like, this is pretty good. And we're trying to make it look like stay in pixel art, so no high res art to contradict with that, but outside of the UI and character art. Different light sources and stuff behave differently. This will look really nice. There's a very nice feel. I believe in this one he actually moves the light source around to simulate a character with a torch, or perhaps a guard, or a spell or something of that nature. So you can actually see how it interacts and behaves with the environment, which again is absolutely amazing. Our game is being developed in Unity. It's a pretty good engine, especially for making a 2D style game like this. So it's going to do the job pretty well, and it's running pretty slick. I know we did have a little bit of issue with Light Sources making the engine, or our version of the quote unquote engine, it's not the engine's fault, going derpy. I was like, where? Light Source scary. But now it doesn't think it's as scary anymore. Yeah, you can see the texture work is amazing on the structures and stuff like that. Like, top of the line, top of the line stuff. And that's the stuff you guys actually, the donations we receive, that's what this goes towards. It doesn't go towards my own funds or anything like that. Not now. Not for now, because hopefully not ever, because contract renewal for my real life job. But that's a story for another time. Here we have some spellcasting animations where Rhea has a lazy eye. Forgive me. I could not find the finalized version, but this one looks much, much, much good. Now, other things like in our game, uh, like portraits and stuff, we wanted them to be animated. I took a little bit of inspiration from my childhood. When I was really young, this is gonna sound dumb. I played Doom. Now, for my age, being what, I'm 26, I can never remember. Time flies when you're so busy working. Oh my goodness. Um, I took a lot of inspiration because as a little kid, I remember playing on the Xbox 360. There's an arcade game called Doom. Now, Doom is a really, really old game, but I remember absolutely loving Doom and thinking like the portrait system was one of the coolest things ever. And I was like, yes, our like, wouldn't it be cool if our RPG port game had the same thing? So here we have a Nafir experiment, and he is taking damage, and so different damage effects, different attentions to little details. This is very much a passion project, a dream project, and I'm investing everything I have into this thing, everything. That's why I, instead of actually owning a home, which I probably could with my job, I live in an apartment, and I subside off very little because I really, really, really really am bent on production of this game. My soul is committed to this project more than anything. And I want to see it done, and I want to see everything of this passion project. Because I've always wanted to make a video game. I've always wanted to tell the story of the Mixers project, which is the project name of this long project that I've had since like elementary. Elementary is when I came up with it with a friend of mine named Tyler, who's my co-founder, and we were just like, one day Tyler was like, "Hey, dude, let's just make the game." And after years of trying, about 16 or off and on years, right? As a little kid, didn't know how to make game, didn't know how to code. We're just writing stuff down. We finally got to it, and we started working on a note called 116, and this note became Legend of Terrestria. Because the, if we were to go on all the lore, we'd be here forever. Earlier attempts at spellcasting animations, but here you can see the fantastic cloth work. This stuff is a nightmare to animate, by the way. The fabrics and stuff, the long flowing fabrics, but it's absolutely gorgeous, and it looks spectacular. It's actually in the environment. Early concept arts from Sala when we were talking about spellcasting for the Celestial Order. The world building for this has been astronomical. I don't want to say it's like Tolkien-esque, but it's on par with the Tism aspect in some areas. Some areas. Especially when it came to the actual world itself and its geographical and political and geopolitical climate, as well as its climate map, heat map, water map, current map, air currents, and pretty much everything else. Like, it's insane. Tectonic plates, things like that. We studied a lot of Earth. Funny that Terrestria shares that name. A lot of Terra was studied too, because Terra is the best idea we have for taking influence from things. So we've been looking at that, getting influences and inspiration. Like the Astrians originally started out as just Romans, and then they became more Greeks, and then they became more Romans and Greeks, and then became Greco-Romanistic, and then they became Astrian. Like, it took a lot of working, took a lot of inspiration, and it took a lot of changing and working, reworking, and then realizing what it was to be Astrian, realizing that Roman was wrong, realizing that the Greeks weren't quite right, realizing that it was actually more of an Eastern-esque culture, and that we took a lot of influences from real-world cultures to help build this one. Because we only have one point of reference. Here you can see another alternate version of a portrait. This is a earlier placeholder, by the way. Fantastically done by our lead character artist, Sal. And this is Rhea, taking damage, but while spellcasting, because how magic works in this universe, or magic, if we want to call it that. We use the word magic, but it's not really magic. There's no mana, there's no things like that. How it works is very different. It's like a science of its own. How energy and the cost of resources work between the different religions and how it works has to adhere to a lore Bible. This is in reference to the world creation and the amount of writing that goes into this game. So, when constructing this universe, the first thing we had to do was deconstruct it, go back to its roots, and then write a lore Bible, the do's and don'ts and cans and cannots of the universe, what can and cannot occur, the laws of physics, if you will. This kind of creation of this tool is very useful, especially when having multiple assistant writers and artists who are also taking part in the creative process, because Sala has very much taken part in the creative process of helping redesign Rhea. Um, Bubbles has, so has everyone. Carlos has helped with the Legend of Krak gods, which is the old Celestial Order, helping me come up with character ideas because, like, I'm very much a visionary. I understand that. I understand that I have a massive vision, a grandiose vision, a bloated vision, but I need talented individuals to help me clean up this vision. Um, I don't like comparing myself too much, but I've often been compared in the team, jokingly, to like George Lucas as being a bit retarded, if you will, because George Lucas had Jar Jar Binks ideas, but I feel like I haven't had one of those ideas. Okay, I've had bad ideas, but I feel like I've never had a Jar Jar Binks moment. And thanks to Bubbles, thanks to Fairman, thanks to Hans, thanks to Tyler, thanks to Carlos, Sala, everyone on the team, they've helped keep me on the straight and narrow. Understanding that other members of the team and their opinions matter and their thoughts matter is important, and that's why also making sure that the team is vetted, because we vet our team who gets on. Uh, Thanks to things like Twitter. It's a sad, regrettable thing in this modern era, but after working on this project so long, we have to vet people. Like, can't be allowed on to the project unless you we've been able to prove that you have something to contribute. So it's extremely difficult to even get into this project. Um, Actually, it's always been that way. We have a damage intake, so it's like Rhea's taking damage. She gets hit and she slides back, but she shakes it off and she reposes herself for battle. The idea is that a lot of these animations are inflicting their personality and their idea of who they are. So the animations convey the idea, their posture and everything, and to their personality. Things were very carefully constructed. Like I said, it was a passion project, meticulously. Great job by Cashew. Here we have a wonderful piece from another artist who doesn't get a lot of limelight in here because a lot of his art that he's working on has to remain secretive because that's for the Legend of Krak series. But that one's not too secretive as far as the game. This is just a pinup of Rhea, the heiress to the Astrian Empire, daughter of the Emperor Crondrius. Um, and here, I do like, I do like it. It looks really nice. That hilt though bothers me, but it's fantastic. Absolutely great. Here we have Aya, the youngest. I don't think I think I pulled up Nezra, and the thing is with magic is it's kind of hereditary because it has to do with genetics, lumines and things like that, which is basically meta knowledge and stuff. Lumines disciples or something like that. It's okay. Whatever I say in regards to that will sound like absolute gibberish. And here we have Nezra. Here's a little bit of the world map. This is the work version for writing, not the pretty one that Sandro is making, the one that looks actually really good. This one is was made by, we originally drew the map. I drew it by hand. Sandro went over it and added textures to it. We polished it up, and then we went over it again and made multiple layers. So here's the internal geopolitical map mode. I also have the civilized and non-civilized factions enabled for their color-coded system. Because Astrian's broken up into cultures, that's why there's different colors here. So these cultures are subcultures within these empires. And so the Great Nephir Horde, then the Great Nephir Horde is the leading warband in the series of hordes, if you want to call it that, like the Neneri Conquerors, the Nori Warlords, the Boskar Looters, the Rakiri Runers, and there's a bunch of others. Sub-factions. Now, the game doesn't go into all of these sub-factions. It doesn't go to the Duchy of Rosalion, or the, thing of that. At least I don't think it does right now. I'm sorry, I've been working so much, I've kind of forgotten some things. Oh, the Duchy of Ethos, the Barony of Tori, I can remember that. Ezri, Benici, and Thurnberg. Remember that, because they mountain ranges. Yes, I remember the other maps. Okay, good. So you can see the various houses within the Astrian Empire. And the houses are broken up into different sections. So the northern houses is led by House Torius, and they led the defense of the mountain ranges, which I have now slipped the name. I was doing so good. The river of Osos drips down here, which is a massive river. House Vala oversees that. House Esticles is wrapped into it. It's sort of like a theme system of defense, but it's not quite the themes. The great houses sort of fall under the greater house, if you will. For regional defense and regional legions and house legions, because the Astral Imperial Army is long dissolved. Now, some of these names are placeholders, by the way, like the Mazatec Empire has gone through several name changes. The Qi Empire I absolutely hate because it's just too Sinofied. They're getting massive reworks. There are actually 5 different kingdoms within that empire. It's kind of awesome. I actually am enjoying working on them. Sadly, we had to take a break from working on them. I'm a little sad about that. But here you can just see a lot of the lore and world building. So we have different regions, like this is the Astrian region, the Ogorial Plains, Helastro, the continent of Krynos, the Batsti, and Avigario over the right, and Thundun over there. Manyun. Different seas and different oceans, like Turlo, Ichio, Marium, and stuff like that, Apollonia. It's been so long since I've looked at this. It's like rekindling memories. So character concepts are interesting. These, how they work, are very expensive and how we produce them, but we, again, the donations go to making the top of the line stuff, as always. Top of the line, nothing less. This is a character Alexia of House Nataclisius. Her father is Therostocles V, if I remember correctly. He's the chunky boy. Yeah, he's the absolute unit. Yep. He's a relatively new character. Yes, and so how it works is generally Salah makes a bunch of concepts, and then we make the finalized versions, and we make it pretty well painted. It's not like super finalized, but this is just concept level stuff, so it's, no fingies. That doesn't really matter. It conveys the idea, and this concept is then sent off to Cashew. Cashew then takes this concept and makes it into a sprite. That takes a little while because it has to translate all the details into a sprite. You'd be surprised how well these details actually translate when you have a absolute Chad like Cash. Like Cash can do amazing work. Here's the Great House of Vala and all the characters. You have Rhea, Nezra, Grandrius, Aya, Zyra, and Nidus, the brother of Grandrius. Zyra is the mother of these 3, and mother or wife of Grandrius. Nidus is older than Grandrius. He should be on the throne, but, things don't always go as they should. Here we have the most adorable Celeste, a fan favorite character. I'm happy that people like her design. We worked really hard on her. I can't even say anything beyond that. There's 2 more of her. Here's just some of the sprites we have. Here we have Waylon. He's from the Federal Republic of Galay. If you could call it a republic, that'd be cute. There you have Varys. I actually pretend played a character in a campaign with Arch as Varys. Selenar, Nidus, Nezra. Don't know what that is. Can I know what that is? Celeste. A Celeste with a coat. And her little thing. Zyra, Crondrius, Selenar, Lanadris, Rhea. God, it's been so long since I've done these guys. Oh my god. These are the elemental shamans for the Nefir Chord. 1, 2, 4. Wait, are we missing one? Maybe. I don't remember. Nefir Experiment. And there we have Captain Tiano of the Palatina Guard. Here we have Mytha. Thank you for having your name there. Very convenient. I actually remember her, though. She's a relatively new character. one of our first little quote-unquote small characters besides Celeste. And here's concepts from Carlos on different creatures. So, like in our game, we're trying to work on different things, right? So we have different. It's not just all humans, but we don't have orcs, dwarves, and elves because, well, that's very Tolkien-esque, and that's kind of just not very creative. If I just follow in the same footsteps as Tolkien and be like, we have orcs, that's lame. That's lazy. That's not good enough. Terrestria is not Earth. It does not have Earth mythos. It has Terrestria mythos and terrestrial creatures. So the Luminarians of Estosia, or Estosi, actually, I think that's a typo there. No, it's spelled right. They're 8 feet tall. Great, large lads. The sunken empire of Luminar, the tragic tale. They went boom. Here we have the three sisters as just a fun little painting. And here you get a little bit more of the actual world map, or what the game world looks like. So how the game is going to be broken up into is a series of zones, if you will. So you're in a certain zone, it'll be, we hope it'll be big. It depends on a couple of factors, like it'll be sizable. You'll be able to walk around into the town and go inside different buildings and interact with different characters, and combat can even occur in these places as well. Because the free movement map is the same as the combat map. Once combat is initialized, the deployment box appears, and then you can deploy the characters. When you do like combat stuff, how it kind of works in the docs, so to speak, because it's not actually implemented fully, is that you pick a couple of characters, 2 characters to go with you. Those 2 characters actually affect the dialogue, especially they like if they're from that area. So, for example, let's say you go to the Republic of Galay, right? And you take Waylon with you. You're going to learn a lot more, and he might have personal predisposed biases, and characters might have biases towards him because of his race, because of his, well, not necessarily his race, but nationality, if you will, culture. Because Galayans are viewed differently. Like Astrians and Galay are viewed as like, oh, you. Like, Galay used to be a part of the Empire and seceded not that long ago, so there's a bit of bitterness. So having different characters there will change things like that. Or, for example, Waylon's ethnic group is actually Novarian, and Novarians are viewed differently in different places as well. So you'll actually get unique dialogue from certain things or triggers. That's the idea. So if you bring Aya along, and let's say there's a noble lord who's like had a daughter that looked like just like her, he might be more predisposed to helping you or something like that. That is the idea that I would like to go for with that. But that is an experimental phasing, so we'll find out. Because the dialogue in quote unquote free movement build is not going to be done until the combat build is done. And the combat build's quite massive because there's warfare combat and then there's just character based combat. Which the idea of warfare combat is like a tabletop war game. But we'll talk about that later because that's in experimental stages along with the mini fishing game that Bubbles will be designing. We have some characters from House of Concordia. But yeah, and here, this is some Kanar stuff. So there's a side project we're actually working on called the Legend of Kanar. Legend of Kanar takes place over like 1,000 years before the start of Legend of Terrestria. Legend of Terrestria is basically 1022 AE after the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment, which takes place before, BE refers to before Enlightenment, and that has to do in 1022 AE, or not 1022 AE, like 36 AE BE, if I remember right. Might be getting the timeline a little bit messed up here by a year or two. I'm pretty on the pin with that though. I think it's 36 BE or 35 BE, one or the other. And that's the story of Kanar, how the Republic changed and how it reformed into the first kingdom of Astria. And then later on, the kingdom of Astria will change as another one of his Kanar's descendants becomes the first emperor of Astria as their government reforms a second time. But that's more of a promotional material piece that we're working on. The idea is that that'll help promote the game's story. That's going to be constructed in with unique characters and art and in a very storyboardy way. So these gods are from the old order, like the god of brilliance of Festo. Then we have the wayward god Calestios. And then we have the god of seasons and end of time, Taminaro. And these are just various concepts. So they're all works in progress. But as you can see, a different god servants in the ethereal plane, because how it kind of works in our world is there's different planes. We don't. You could say dimensions, but that would be weird when it comes to the ethereal plane. Like, there's the physical plane, then there's the ethereal plane, and the two are connected, but there's a veil in between them, and they both inflict. They don't both affect each other, but they can't directly affect each other, if that makes sense. And then there's another plane in which energy comes from, but we'll talk about that later. And there's a few other things. There's the god of martial prowess, Thorgos. He lost his arm, and he has a shield, which is pretty cool. That's to do with the War of Gods, the whole birth of the Starborn Pantheon, and the death of most of the gods of the Old Celestial Order, and the reformations that were implemented by the Silver Prophet, things like that. Here we have some internal architecture that we were working on. This is the Council of Helios. This is an older building, but this is for the Legend of Krak series, and this just shows all the work that's being poured into this. We're actually trying to build the architecture, the structures, the scenes for the actual story. Here we have an example of how cutscenes work in our game. So there's a couple of things in our game. There's the free world movement kind of thing. There's the where you can talk to characters, interact, and deal with the world and stuff like that, and just walk around and trade and stuff like that. Then there's the combat one, which you know about. There's a fishing minigame planned. I blame the Near game for that. And I blame chat. Chat actually influenced an actual mini game in our game. I can't believe you. And then this is an example of a scene. So cutscenes will take place as massive illustrations. These illustrations will be super polished in the absolute finest quality. I will show you in just a second. I have some things in the background. You can also join our Discord, by the way, and to find out more and ask us directly in the hashtag Legends of Terrestria room, which I had open in the background. Let me close Steam, or minimize Steam. Let me minimize all this shite. So, in terms of quality, the reason why I'm doing that is because this wallpaper was actually a test concept made by Sal. So when I met Sal, he actually followed me on DeviantArt and said, I really like Aerith. And I looked at his profile, because I always look at people's profiles half the time, and I noticed that he was a really good artist. And I was like, hey, would you like to draw Aerith for money? And he's like, yes, I would. And so he did this piece, and this piece was actually a fan art piece. I don't think this one actually was paid for. There's another piece which he was paid for. But like he was like, I'm gonna make a cool little like sketch or painting of Aerith as a goddess. And I was like, okay, cool. So he did, and he sent a version that looked a lot less polished than this, and this version, which is just again amazing. Like it's absolutely spectacular, and that's how we ran into him. That's how we hired him. And the idea is that the cutscenes will have this level of polish, even actually higher, because this is actually just a fan art piece. It could actually be even better because Sal's skills are incredible. So that's the idea with these cutscene pieces. So you have different scenes that sets up the stage and the world and the environment and the story of this place, because it is a grand epic adventure, and that's the kind of idea. The idea is that as far as the game goes, is that the player influences the character's decisions via dialogue options. I didn't want to use a binary blue-red system, like good or bad. Like it's just decisions, and the world will judge you for those based on who they are. So if you do one thing, other characters might approve. Other nations or groups and cultures will approve because it's in their vices and virtues, and others will not approve. That's just how it is. Just like in our world. You can't appease everybody, but you can very quickly make out who will like you and who will not. That's the idea. And then here we have another scene. Just tests and things like that. Getting a feel for it. Working on the heraldry for the Empire. Figuring out what they looked like and the different heraldry of the towns, cities, and houses and lords. Another concept of Celeste. And then we have a piece from Carlos. This one is just a bunch of characters. Again, just to show like all the work that's being put into this. These are just Astrians, just Astrian peoples in general. The idea is that Astria, or Terrestria as a whole, has very antiquity feel, but it's like antiquity plus, if you will. The idea was like, what if the Dark Ages never occurred? What if the sort of like cultural vibe sort of continued onwards? What if there was like empires that rose and fall, but no one like the Roman Empire presided over all, so that it didn't just erode away at like every culture in Europe, like in Astria. Like the different houses are very independent. They have their own cultures. The northern houses have their own cultures. The House Lanium is nothing like House Torius. Now, House Torius is not quite like, the Astrians or the Valen region, which is the heart of the Astrian Empire. They all have different things, like Concordia having its own religion, even though they're within the empire. The idea that the world is big and massive and full of culture, peoples with very different thoughts and ideas, and it's taken a very, very long time to make. And it will take a very, very long time to actually continue to finish. But yeah, so that's the idea of the game. The game is very much a passion project. It's a turn-based tactical role-playing game. Once we're far enough along the lines, we will do some closed testing for the people who've donated. If you have donated, you can join our Discord server. Send me a DM, Bubs or Kibs. Either one of us works, or anyone on the Bickering rank. Send me your receipts, not receipts. You only need one. Even if it was as low as $1, doesn't matter. Or a bit on Twitch, which is literally a penny. You can have it. But you can have access to the Chamber of Squeakers. You can have it, silly me. And you'll be able to participate in the test, so to speak. The closed testing. We will open up to public testing for everyone else, though. Because we need all the help we can get. Closed testing because we're going to have to set up the apparatus for how the logistics is going to work for reporting bugs and things like that, and stomping those out. That's a lot of work. And that's what the closed testing is going to help. With a smaller test group, we can quickly hone out the major issues and then also figure out how to do the organization of that. And then once it's ready, open testing. Hopefully that'll be within this year. That's the idea. We'll at least start with closed testing. That's the hope. Assuming everything works and everything functions normally. Which, if you've ever worked on games or if you ever worked on a large project, you know how that can be. So far, we're making excellent progress. We had a few hiccups here and there, but we've had some massive leaps forward that we weren't expecting, which is amazing. Either way, though, I think that will wrap up today's lay video about the game. I hope you enjoyed listening about it, and if you have further questions about any specific details, you can ask in the comments below, and I will respond to them. If you don't want to join the Discord server, you don't have to. Our Reddit is on the thing there. All the art is posted on Patreon and Subscribestar for free. You don't need to pay for it. All you need to do is just click on the Patreon or Subscribestar links, and you can go look at the art there, or you can go to the Reddit if you'd prefer to look at it over there. You can also alternatively join our Discord server and see some of it there, but that's where people can type questions about it or comments on the character designs and be like, oh, I really think she's cute, or I think, oh, that's really nice, or something like that, or whatever, Either way, guys, thanks for listening. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Thank you guys all for the support. This month has been fantastic, by the way. 400% almost 400% of normal revenue from YouTube. That's amazing. With that money, you have no idea. You have no idea how big of an impact that has made. But it has made a massive impact. Work orders are filed for every artist, and there's more than an abundance of money to go around for the entire departments. So the project is going to be on fire for the next couple of months thanks to you guys. So that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. On top of the money I'm already dumping into the game. So we're doing a great job. We're putting this thing together. Thanks, guys, and have a fantastic day. We'll see you later.